Joey, how are you? Kevin Kane here from the Irish News.
How are you? How's it going?
Good, thanks. Let's go to the black card and hurling. Did hurling need the black card penalty?
I think it did. Yeah, I think it did because what we would have always been told for years is, if a ball hops around the 45 and some of the good runners, they collect the ball on the run, it's all about overlaps and goals, so in order to better the game, you have to really discourage defenders from hauling lads down, it's not fair on the attacking side of things, so I think it's a good thing.
Do you think the punishment is exactly right?
I think it is. Yeah, I suppose only time will tell, I suppose. But it's I suppose whatever they chose, whatever they picked, there'd always be an argument for another option as well. So I'd be happy enough with it. I'm looking forward to see how it goes.
How big an impact do you think banning the near turn, will have on teams in the game as well?
Sorry, say that again?
So how big an impact do you think banning the near turn will have?
Will it have a big impact? I don't think that it'll have that big of an impact, will it? There's always ways around it. I haven't even seen what the lads are going to be doing now instead, but I don't think that it'll have that big of an effect on it. Obviously, they would have had a lot of information coming onto the pitch, with tactics and stuff like that, But I couldn't see it being that big of an impact, really.
You're happy with that as well?
Yeah.
Good man, thank you.
No worries.
Hey Joey, it's Gordon Manning here. How are things?
Hey Gordon, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. Joey, just on I suppose injury prevention and stuff. The talk is if inter-county teams come back, there will be a 4-week window. Is 4 week the best or the least amount of time really to kind of get up to pace, or do you think you could do it in a shorter period of time?
Jeez, I think Gordon, honestly, you're going to need. I think 4 weeks would be too short.
Okay.
If you're talking, and rumour has it, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but if you start training April 5th as a group, and you're out in your first league game on, let's say, May 5th, it's not a lot of time to get the body ready, You can do all the runs you want up and down the pitch. But you just can't replicate that high intensity. When you're chasing a player in a training match or whatever, So, you could see, the idea, yourself, you definitely need ideal scenario an 8-week run in when you can train and you can get your challenge matches in and stuff, So I don't think that you could do shorter than 4 weeks, and I think that you probably definitely need longer than 4 weeks. But look, we're in the situation we're in. We're trying to get probably the league in anyway first, and then make a call if it's going to be straight into championship or if we go back to the clubs and then do the championship later on in the year. I think that's still up in the air at the moment.
What would the high risk injuries be, Joey? From a kind of going back in at a high tempo after 4 weeks of preparation, what are kind of the high risk injuries that you risk kind of incurring?
Yeah, so hamstring definitely be number one, because that's all to do with your exposure to that tough sprinting if you're a cornerback and the corner forward has made 4 or 5 runs and then maybe a fresh man comes onto you, and you have to go again and again and again. You can only replicate that in real match situations. So hamstring, and then the second one would be ankles. So if you're if you're used to just jogging in straight lines and you're just training by yourself, and then suddenly there's so much more to be thinking about when you're in an actual match. You need your ankles to have had that kind of exposure to that, unconscious balance and landing and twisting and turning. So that's the two things that we see the most here. It's hamstrings, and it's a player going over on their ankle.
And then just last one for me, Joey, then just going back on last year's experience, then whether it be club players or inter-county players or even from various different sports, what kind of, were you seeing an increase in those kind of injuries last year when players were getting back into their relevant sports?
Yeah, we seen, especially let's say the inter-county season last year, like there was a lot of players just taking painkillers playing through, because it was such a short period, you really couldn't afford to be sitting out with a sore hip or a sore groin or anything like that, especially in the kind of mini pre-seasons. So again with the club as well, like there was just no time to sit out any to kind of periodise your training at all or kind of look after yourself. So there was a big increase in injuries, but they mightn't have been reported, if you get me.
Thanks, Joey.
No worries.
Joey, Sean Moran in the Irish Times. You were centrally involved in what was a high point for Dublin modern hurling back at the start of the last decade. Are you surprised or disappointed that the county hasn't really built on that as might have been hoped back in 2013?
I suppose you would have thought, that we would have pushed on, because when you look at the what is it, 2021 now, so you're talking 9 years ago. I think Pat Gilroy had us very close. If Pat hadn't had to step away, I think the second year under Pat, like he did with the footballers in 10-11, I think you would have seen a big step forward then. So that was a bit of a disappointment that he couldn't stay around and keep on with the progress that he had made. And then Maddie took over then, and they're improving, but I think that the standard around the country has improved as well. As in there's a lot of other counties, obviously look at the likes of Limerick, how much did they have up their game in Galway and Tipperary. So it is disappointing, but it is what it is. I thought that we would have bridged the gap by now, but when you're looking at it, the standard of the other counties have just gone up. So we're just going to have to find a way to go again and get back up there.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Joey, Frank Roach here from The Independent. How are you keeping?
Just
following on from what Sean said there, I think in an interview last year, you said you expect Dublin to win a Leinster very shortly under Matty. Given how the season panned out, I know a very different season last year and shortened season, would you still have that confidence, or was it shaken in any way by events on the field that you would have seen?
Yeah, last year was a bit. I suppose they didn't have a good run at it, and I just know from kind of knowing a couple of lads and stuff, it's just been so difficult to get any sort of momentum and to push so what Maddie and the lads want to do, obviously they want to put a certain style of play into the team, and they've got a plan, and with the way in which the season was dragged out last year, and then you're putting your foot down and you just have to go flat out there for a couple of weeks. So kind of, all the plans that you put in place earlier in the year, it just kind of goes out the window and you just have to get through games. So it is a bit of a setback, but it was disappointing that they didn't get a better run on it last year. So I don't know is the answer. I had more confidence going into last year. So it's probably we're looking at it and we're just looking to we probably need to create one or two forwards that are kind of going to be more dangerous, so that if the game is in the balance, that they'll always come out with a goal, or they'll always come out with 1-2, without even playing well. And I think that we just need to unearth one or two of them, and we could be very close.
I was just going to ask you, your own clubmate Donald Burke has made a big impact. He's been around for a few years, but probably last year more than any. But do you think it's up front is more of an issue than in defence, because maybe pace, they might have been exposed a little bit for pace once or twice in some of the goals they conceded last year.
Yeah, no, I think so, because if you look at all the great hurling teams in the past, their defence looks great, but they would always, if you're playing centre back or if you're playing full back, and you're clearing 3 or 4 balls up the pitch, and the 3 or 4 of them are coming back down on you, you really can't win anything like that. You need to get a situation where, if you're clearing 3 or 4 balls up the pitch, that you do have the forwards that will just without anybody even knowing it, they've clicked over 1-3 or 1-4, and you're still in the game, and then you're taking the pressure off the defence. So the best form of defence, as far as I could always see, was when a forward does something out of the ordinary and catches a ball over 2 of their defenders and sticks it over, and it just kind of gives all our defence a lift. So I think that we need possibly 1 or 2 more of them. Your Danny Sutcliffe, or your, like Shefflin would have done it for years. I think that that's the key to kind of to the success in that, because when you're a defence, no matter how good you are, if you're constantly under pressure, the top class intercounty forwards now are going to take advantage of you, whereas you need to keep the ball up the other end of the pitch and to be kind of turning the tide with them kind of things. Do you know what I mean?
Joey Shane Stapleton here, how are you?
Hi Shane.
Another one of your club teammates, Shane Barrett, he's obviously been prominent there for a number of years and playing very well, and struggled for game time last year. What do you think Shane needs to do to get back front and centre?
I think he had a bit of an issue with his hip or groin. So again, it's let's say last year, when you're doing a lot of work from home and trying to manage your injuries, you couldn't really get that much physio, or couldn't really get a good run at it. So I think that he needs a good season to be injury free, to build back up the confidence. Because yourself, if you have a really good season without getting injured, without missing time off the pitch, then suddenly your confidence comes back, and you can remember that you had 7 or 8 really, really good high intensity matches last year, and then your confidence is built into the next year and the next year and the next year. And that's what I can always see with young players coming up. If you can stay on the pitch and stay playing for 3, 4, 5 seasons on the trot, then your confidence is up. Do you know what I mean? But I think that he's just been knocked back with niggly injuries here and there that he has to get cleaned up,
Yeah, because when you consider that Matty kind of had to move around some of the pieces last year, moving Chris Crumley up the field, moving Sean Moran up the field, and obviously dropping him then for the Cork game, it does seem like someone with Shane Barrett's speed would be crucial to get him back in defence. He's had some brilliant games against big players over the years.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, and I just think it was the body. I think the system, and you obviously know yourself, I think you need to be 100% fit, and you can't be sitting out too many training sessions coming up to championship matches with Matty, which is fair enough, so I think that probably was the situation last year. I don't know for a fact, but that would be my guess, that he just didn't have the minutes under the belt to step in. So hopefully this year it's a different story,
Yeah, and do you think he'll persist with moving the likes of Crummy and Sean Moran into different positions, or what would you like to see happen?
Well, I'd like to see Sean Moran at 6 and Chris at 5 and maybe Barrett at 7, or just leave them there.
Yeah.
Or if you're leaving Rushy at 11 or whatever, I'd say just leave the players in their position, because you need to build a kind of camaraderie with your cornerback behind you and your 6 beside you and your 8 and 9 in front of you, and you need to be going through good and bad games for a period of time to build that kind of confidence in each other. Whereas I just know it happened to me a couple of times that I'd be put up to centre forward or something because somebody was stuck, and you're kind of like a fish out of water. You might have one good game or two good games, but over the course of 10 games, you're just like the likes of Chris. I don't think he's ever really played up there, and if you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, I think that is not the way to go. I just leave the best players in their best positions. And that's what it was Dave Billings told me that years ago. He said, just if you're good in one position, just leave him there. Let him be good in that position and find somebody else for that hole. Don't be trying to move things around,
Yeah. Do you feel sympathy then that maybe there's kind of an issue with ball winning up in the forward? Like, I would imagine, Matty obviously played Sean Moore in centre back for Coola for years, and he knows all about Chris Crummy, so he knows that those are his best positions. Is it because Dublin are lacking so much elsewhere?
Yeah, no, yeah, that must be it. That must be it. But I suppose the other thing is, like, you can develop kind of ball winners, if you give them enough confidence, and if you leave them at, but I suppose it's a difficult one for Maddie, isn't it? Like, yourself. If it paid off, we'd be all talking how good of a decision it was. But like, just from looking at the history books, when you have to do that stuff, when you're removing your key players from their key positions to fill other positions, it's never really the best way to go down, But yeah, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, and where do you reckon Dublin are in the pecking order? Because if you just go back the last couple of years, like, they've always generally ran teams very close. Back in 2018 and 19, beat Galway, lose to Laois. Like last year, come back from 16 points down to level with Kilkenny, and then go out and get pasted by Cork. Where do you think Dublin are actually at?
I would say, talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, realistically, on any given day, they could be between 8 and 6 at the moment, just based off the history books for the last 2 or 3 years. But there is a potential to go up into number 5 or number 4 on any given season. But like, realistically, we just haven't been producing it regularly enough. It's too hot and cold. So that's what I'd be thinking anyway. And again, you can get we're like the Laois result there 2 years ago. Like, again, you can take, if you take your eye off the ball for a second, you can go right down to number 10. Anybody can beat you.